Hello everyone, today I'm looking at Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic 2, The Sith Lords. So after the events of the first game with Darth Revan, you basically start as a completely new character called the Outsider. And so the writing in this game is really interesting because now there's this whole aspect about being in part of the gray side of the force between being light and dark and kind of this neutral kind of stance, which is a really interesting new concept. Because, a lot of the times we hear about, bringing balance to the force, and we don't really, consider what that actually means, that good and evil should be actually in equal measure, not just defeating evil itself. And the modification of this idea is actually through Kreia, who is one of the most interesting characters I've ever experienced. She's this old woman who also acts as your guide and mentor and really Jedi Master throughout the game. But she's very easy to reprimand you for pretty much everything you do. You never ever feel like you made the right decision or the right choice. And she's always so mysterious how she's come to her conclusions. And of course, what's very interesting is who her identity and how her identity changes and who she really becomes by the end of the game. It's a very interesting twist that I just didn't see coming, and a very interesting character where she's still your mentor, but she almost becomes an antagonist towards you. Again, but not for the point that she does not like you, but for your own benefit to make you stronger. It's a really interesting, weird dynamic that I was not really expecting. Mission Vow. You get HK-47 returns. You now have a different droid companion. Your right-hand man pilot is now Anton, but very similar to the first game. Beodur is an Iridonian. The same race as Darth Maul, so of course if you turn to the dark side, he will start turning like Darth Maul, but normally he's just blue with, white horns. Visas Mars, man, a lot of these characters are so iconic and memorable and interesting that it's just really amazing how long ago I played the game and how well written and interesting these characters are. And you also have a Mandalorian type character in this game as well to fill the role of the previous game, who was the Mandalorian. Speaking of which, the Mandalorian sort of world mission was really, really cool. The fact that you just got to meet all these Mandalorians and kind of learn about the lore and their whole society was really, really interesting. Of course, I probably said this before, but it's also incredibly interesting how this game branches out into Mass Effect. For those of you who have played Mass Effect, there are a lot of similarities in this game in terms of the different cultures of the aliens you come across and the characters and your interactions with them. In terms of other things about this game, gameplay-wise, it's more or less the same. There's a lot more different techniques and attacks you have. There's this one really cool one if you're on the dark side, which is like Force Destroy or something, or Drain, and it basically puts the person up in the sky and destroys them. And I think this is the first time BioWare actually introduced the aspect where, depending if you're good side or evil side, your face will change. Again, what I really like about these games is they're a perfect combination of strategy and combat. So again, you're going to be auto-attacking as you normally would, and now you just also, similar to the first game, you're just going to select the move sets that are best suited for that situation. Of course, you still have mines and grenades and all that other good stuff in this game as well. And of course, you go to new sort of places like Nar Shaddaa. You return to places like Dantooine and other locations similar to the first game. But it feels like everything else in here feels like a proper sequel. Everything is a bit smoother, better thought out, better dialogue, better text for even displaying dialogue. I always felt that the text dialogue in KOTOR 1 was very kind of it had this blue and yellow kind of font that looked very, very kind of almost cheesy, while this one is a bit more toned down and seems more appropriate. It's funny, I remember actually in Nar Shaddaa, there was this one character who was actually glitched, and I don't know exactly what happened, but you would go to him, and you would have completed a quest, and you would say certain dialogue options, and then you'd quit that quest, and you get 1,000 EXP each time you did that. But if you ever selected the other dialogue option that ended the conversation, for accepting the quest, he would just give you 1,000 EXP. But if you kept going through that same dialogue route, you just got infinite EXP. And so I remember, like, as a kid, I would like make a save, load up, and just mindlessly go through the same, dialogue option so I can get unlimited EXP. And I thought that was really, big brain of me. And then basically I made that a permanent save that I could always go back to. In the end, though, I don't think it was worth it, because I got to the end bosses, the game was super easy. But it's really funny to find a glitch of that nature in this game. It's still kind of fairly broken in a lot of ways. There's definitely something about this game with its atmosphere. It definitely has a very distinct atmosphere. It really immerses you. And it does feel like a Star Wars game, I guess, but again, very distinct. It's like, I don't look at this like other Star Wars games like, Republic Commando or, Bounty Hunter. This game is Star Wars, but it also has its own distinct vibe to it. And, of course, that's what's going to transform and go into Mass Effect in the future for BioWare. Something I really love about this game, not only so are the characters interesting, but now you can actually turn, of course, your characters to the light side or dark side. And what I thought was really cool, some characters, they start out as gun wielders or whatever, and you can actually convert them to being Jedis. So reverting them to the light side or dark side, or your side, or wherever you go, not only makes their character growth very significant, but it also gives them a different moveset and loadout, which also is a huge motivator. It's very cool, actually. I think Bao-Dur is actually the hardest one. I can't remember if it's to the light side or to the dark side, but he's the hardest one to actually convert. And I don't know if I was looking up a guide, but I know there's this one mission where I said a certain piece of dialogue and it completely I remember I played a certain piece of dialogue, and I remember it completely blocked me out from ever getting him back onto my side again, and I had to reload that save and do that whole mission over again. Something else I have to say about this game is really the ending. It's very, 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 very interesting, and also very aggravating, because the way the game ends is that, it treats Revan as his own distinct character, and you as your own distinct character. And so what occurs is that the way the game ends, it's basically like Revan has gone out into deep space, and he's basically, building up an army. And, this whole thing seems to be almost like a trial for you to basically get strong enough so that you can help Revan in the final fight, which is this prophecy that there are these destroyers or these harbingers or these things from beyond the void in deep space that are coming into the Republic space that is going to wipe out the entire civilization. And the entire point of this game and this campaign was actually just to test you and make you strong enough to go up against such a permissible force. And so it really leaves you on this giant cliffhanger where you're like, okay, it's cool. So you leave the home planet that you're on. It blows up, you fly into deep space to rendezvous with Revan, and it's going to be like this giant epic battle that's going to conclude everything. And we never got a sequel to that. And that is just the most frustrating, annoying thing I've ever felt. Oh my goodness. Something that just always makes me go insane is theories and screenshots of a prototype Knights of the Republic 3. People wanted this so much. It was so cool, such a good cliffhanger. It would have been so more interesting. And you can see this whole concept and story about things from deep space coming to destroy all of civilization is literally Mass Effect, and kind of where it took off from. I'm kind of conflicted on that, I suppose. I really love the Star Wars aesthetic. But if I had to choose between that or Mass Effect, I guess I might choose Mass Effect simply because it spawned a whole series of different games and was its own IP. So, I mean, that's always pretty good. Again, I'm a huge fan of Mass Effect, and I'm also a very big fan of this game. I know what unfortunately happened is Mass Effect Andromeda kind of shat the bed. So if there are any Mass Effect fans looking for an experience similar to Mass Effect, I would actually recommend this game. And if you're not used to combat, that's even better because this game kind of attacks for you. And just, I know, the characters, the story, they're really good. In fact, I think there's a lot of interactions in this game that are better than Mass Effect. I mean, the characters, honestly, I think some of them are definitely better, if not just as good, on par with what we see in the rest of the Mass Effect games. I think it's also interesting in this game that you basically end up with the same equipment and some of the droids and some of the stuff that Revan used in the previous game. So just to keep things, very familiarized, like the Ebon Hawk, for example, is the same ship you get to use. Unfortunately, what has happened to the series is that they did try to technically make Knights of the Republic 3, but it was a giant MMO and a giant failure. I forget exactly what happened with the game. I just remember seeing screenshots of it and just being uninterested. I will say, though, that the trailer for the MMO is insane. It was so hype. It was so cool. It showed this giant, ship crashing to the Jedi Temple and like 1,000 Sith coming out in this all-out battle. And so I love that trailer, but I've never actually played I have tried it recently and it was not good. There's something about a very clean, concise story and a scoped story that that kind of gives you direction in a character rather than an MMO where you get to be whatever you want. And it kind of really doesn't fit anything significant or distinct. And it's just kind of a very bland, open-ended story because that's what MMOs kind of tend to do. Again, I'm not a connoisseur of MMOs, but they're kind of meant to be a fill your shoes, make your character generic kind of experience rather than story. And this good story usually comes later. And of course, what Knights of the Republic became, I don't know. It just seems very, very odd to me. There was some kind of internal, a writing staff problem or something. And the only thing I know it for now is that the animations of certain cutscenes are just laughably bad. Like whatever company or group of Bioware that was working on Mass Effect Andromeda probably also looked like they worked on the MMO because the animations were just abysmally laughable. But yeah, this is still, I think, one of my favorite RPGs of all time. It has, again, such an interesting cast of characters, and really Kreia steals the show because you just cannot expect what she's going to say. You just never know what she's thinking. And she always has this kind of weird, enlightened, and bitter wisdom about her that is so fascinating as a character. And also she's like an old lady too. So it's just, I don't know, she's just really, really interesting. Anyway, guys, I think that's pretty much all I can say about this game. It's definitely worth checking out in terms of RPGs. And yeah, I'll see you later.